Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show. I I am your host, Matt Garces, and we are going to be here talking about a number of topics today. Oh, as I see, one of my co-hosts is ready to join me today. Like I said, as we're here talking about multiple topics today, ladies and gentlemen, joining me to begin the show, make some noise. Justin, how are you? How have you been?
What's going on, bro? Hey, you sound really quiet.
I sound quiet.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. How about now? Am I good?
No, I'm gonna jump out and jump back in and see if that helps. So maybe it's my end.
Okay, yeah, because I sound okay on the playback that I got in my ear, but go ahead. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. We are here live to talk about a multitude of topics, as I said, starting from AEW Dynasty all the way to WrestleMania this weekend. Plus, we're going to talk about the effects of the ABS in baseball, and also tomorrow, the NBA play-in begins. Justin, how are you? Can you hear me now?
Yep, much better, much better. Here's my end.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Also, we're going to be joined by another one of our good friends, Mario Munguia, over here at Infighting FX. Till then, let me get you slotted in. Mario, can you hear me? I didn't know you were both jumping in at the same time. Welcome to the hot tag, man.
What's up, man? I'm chilling. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you. Welcome.
Awesome.
Welcome
Awesome.
both
I
to the
appreciate you
program.
having me, man. Justin, good to see you too, champ. Yeah, looking forward to the show.
All right, I'm going to get to the early sports portion of it. As like I said, tomorrow the NBA will have its play-in tournaments as the Golden State Warriors will take on the Clippers. The Suns will take on the Portland Trail Blazers, and on the other side in the East, the Heat will take on the Hornets, followed by the Sixers, and I believe the final match. Now, number one seeds on both sides, very strong. Detroit Pistons, Oklahoma City Thunder, followed by them two seeds, the Spurs and the C's. Now, you got some interesting matchups, especially with the Lakers and the Rockets. That's an interesting matchup, especially with all the Lakers injuries that have come up. Followed by that, to me, a very slept on matchup. It's going to be more competitive than people see it being. That New York Knicks and Toronto Raptors. Justin, who do you like making it to the playoffs out of the play-in brackets starting tomorrow?
I think out of I think in the play-in, I think you're looking at some good games. I just I feel like the Suns are going to get in. I think Miami's getting in. I think the Sixers are getting in, and I'm picking the Warriors to get in.
Really, the Warriors?
I'm picking the Warriors to get in. Just a gut feeling. No inside info on that game. Just the maybe it's the nostalgia, but that's just kind of where I see that going. And really I think the whole tournament's going to be I think it's a 4-horse race, man. And these playoffs are about as blatant as I think I can see it. I think it's San Antonio, OKC, the Pistons, and Boston, man. That's just how I see it playing out. I don't think there's going to be many surprises. Maybe in those early games, who gets to those teams, but that's just how I see it.
Hey man, I like it. Mario, what's your thoughts, man? You've been following the NBA, you like the play in, you like the setup of how we've got it going on here?
Yeah, man. I've always been a fan of NBA playoffs because the NBA playoffs, other than maybe the NFL, the NBA playoffs is the sport that best represents the differences in play, strategy, coaching, bench usage when it comes to playing regular season games to playoffs. I'm not saying it's a completely different sport, but it almost is a completely different sport when you factor in how much different, because it's like you're playing a bunch of games in the regular season and now it's a, 7 game and, you got to win to advance. And so I've always appreciated that aspect of the NBA, but I am digging the play-in tournament style. I remember when I first heard it, first of all, it wasn't explained correctly to me, so I was crashing out on the wrong thing. But when I finally did realize the way it was going to go down, I was interested. And now here we are, and I think to myself, dude, I could rock with this. I could definitely rock with this.
Mhm.
So here we are. I there's a lot on the East that is very interesting to me. You brought up the Lakers and the Rockets. I'm actually a Lakers fan, long time.
Mhm.
I was a kid.
Same.
And so, that's a tough one for me because obviously H-Town. I actually hate the Spurs. I've
Really?
hated them since
Well, if you're Houston,
they
yeah, you probably
were
don't like San Antonio.
yeah, they were big douchebags who pretended like they invented quality sound basketball. And so it was just like this thing where the Spurs have done so well this year and they've had some ups and downs, but mostly trending up. Did they blow their load too soon in the season? That's I think going to be the question as we get to the playoffs. But yeah, I'm excited, man. Very excited to see how it all shapes out.
Now, with both of you
Detroit,
being
too, by the way.
Lakers fans, let's break down that series between the Rockets and the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, there is hope that Luka Doncic will return. LeBron James this year is going to be one of the. I think this is the only year where he's not going to qualify for any awards or postseason nominations since he didn't hit the threshold of games. But he is a fresher man going into these playoffs. But the Lakers haven't been doing too well on defending the shooters that are in Houston with Kevin Durant leading the charge. I believe they're going to be down a few more pieces. But how do y'all see that series going? Do you see the Lakers even winning this series, and how many games? What do you think?
Well, I thought
Austin Rivers
before
is also going to miss. They said he's going to miss the first round at most.
I thought going into before the injuries happened for the Lakers, I thought they were going to be a very interesting team because they started to heat up a little bit before the injuries, and you had Austin Reeves and Luca, and then you let LeBron kind of just coast and do the things he needed to do when he needed to do it. Well, I thought with the load management that was going to make them pretty dangerous in the playoffs because while LeBron might not be as good as he once was, I think if he's fresh in the playoffs and you need him for that moment, that he could turn it on if he's well rested. But with the injuries of like Austin Reeves, who was balling, and then Luca, if Luca's not going to play, if them two aren't going, I just don't see it happening. If them two were going, I think the Lakers would be very. I'm not saying they would compete with OKC or San Antonio, but I could see a scenario where they could if they were healthy.
What you think, Mario? How many games you think, Mario? Houston and LA.
Oh man, I hate saying this. I hate saying this, but I think the Lakers only probably get one in this one.
Really?
Here's the thing, right? They're beat up. That's one part of it. Luka is a momentum changing player in the playoffs, right? And without the ability to have him as a centerpiece, and mostly because you're broken down everywhere, not just the perimeter, right? It's like you're talking about defending shots. Dude, their centerpiece has been a mess. At the same time, the Rockets season has been a roller coaster as well. You know what I mean? And with Kevin Durant and all that stuff, all I know is that this is the Rockets series to lose. This is their series to lose. The Lakers are going to have to take it from them. And so, yeah, dude, but honestly, I think they're going to be fun games. I'm going to definitely say that, they're going to be fun games. I don't think we're going to get crazy blowouts. I really don't.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like this is going to be one of the more competitive playoff seasons
For
we've had.
sure.
The postseason looks like it's going to be wrapping up. Like I said, the matchups coming in. And, who's to say what's going to happen with a lot of these play-in teams, man? We've seen some play-in teams make a run, but looking towards the future, kind of like what was brought up, that the Oklahoma City Thunder, the San Antonio Spurs, going to be very tough, very, very tough outs going into the playoffs, bro. But then the Boston Celtics at the same time and Detroit, the two toughest outs. The rest looks competitive, man. But we're going to move to my next thing I wanted to bring up here. And I've been talking with you, Mario, here to the side, as we have been seeing the ABS and the MLB make more of an impact as the early season. Now, me and you talked about it as maybe it's just them trying it out in the early season of spring ball. Maybe they just want to see how it works, if it is correct, incorrect. Now, for those of you uneducated in baseball, how it works, there's still a human umpire. Each team gets 2 challenges, and they keep it if successful. Only the hitter, pitcher, and catcher can call for a challenge. So it's not like, center field can wave their hand and say, absolutely not, that's a strike. And then the challenge is revealed instantly on the stadium jumbotron. Now, this season to this point, nearly 1,000 challenges have been issued, mainly by fielders, and it's a 54% overturn rate, meaning that, hey, ump got it wrong. Here's the replay. This is a strike. This is an out. This is a ball. Now, the trade-offs on that, the game, so opposite of what they wanted to do last year. They wanted to speed the game up. They added the pitch clock. They wanted you to just have more focus. Game time went down. Game time now goes back up about 4 to 6 minutes, with your average, as is shown on the screen, being 2 hours and 42 minutes for one game, which isn't terribly long. But if you're a casual viewer, you're not really going to stand with it. But it seems that the engagement is just simply off of, is the challenge correct or not, right? That's what mainly the people are focused on right now, is if it is correct or incorrect, and just the moment within that. So now it's also, you're giving accountability to the umpires, but you're also challenging what they consider their own strike zone, and you're going to cause the debate for what a strike zone is or isn't. Justin, give me your thoughts on this take for this, the ABS, as it is early in the season. Is this going to be an improvement to the game? And do you see this causing a lot of problems or controversies in the postseason this year?
Well, I haven't really watched enough baseball to really see it for myself.
But just go off these stats I have presented for you here.
I'm old school, man. I'm old school. I just don't believe in challenging balls and strikes. I mean, if they're going to go that route, man, just do this automated system like they had planned it on doing in the first place. If that's really what you want to harp down on, just make it perfect then, if that's what you want to do, which is going to be hard because everyone's strike zone changes per, where they stand, where, how tall and their radius and stuff like that. But like I said, I mean, if it's working, it's working. It could be good. I haven't watched it enough to know, but I'm like I said, just not seeing it. I'm still old school about it. You don't argue balls and strikes, man.
Yeah.
So I don't know, 4 to 6 minutes really isn't that bad, but I can see it becoming like, if you're in the middle of a banger game, oh no, we got to stop because of one pitch and see if it was just outside, just inside. And there's a lot of there's a lot of balls and strikes that could be either way. I mean, you could look even on a replay, you can say, man, I can see that called either way. So I mean, it's just gonna be tough.
Now, what are your thoughts on? It seems like the fielders, the people that are dictating whether this could benefit them for an out or not. Do you think that's where the controversy might come in? Because just like you said, the umpire has their strike zone, but let's say a sensor is off in the wrong time in a horrible Game 6, Game 7 elimination situation. What are your thoughts on that? Especially because, look, it's showing here that it's been 54% overturn rate for the fielders. So everybody that's on defense is getting it right.
Maybe make it a thing. My thing is maybe make it a thing where it's only challengeable on when you have 2 strikes or 4 or 3 balls, on either side of it. If you have 3 balls and they call a ball, well, maybe they want to challenge that because that's not a walk, or it's 2 strikes, so that's not a strikeout. I just don't know.
That's where a lot of the challenges are coming in at right there, where there's, strike 3, people are flipping it to ball 4. Mario, what's your thoughts on the ABS system as it is early in the season? Is it going to work? Can it improve the game by making it just a little longer? And do you think postseason controversy is on the way?
No, I think that it's had definitive consequences, or not consequences. It's had definitive changes, right? There are things that are different. But when we talk about change, like the sport evolving or changing or becoming like more accessible to the casual fan, no, the game hasn't changed much at all. You know what I mean? We kind of dipped our toe in this decade and a half ago, with the whole replay thing. And so I think here we are, and you can look at certain pros and cons, and they kind of cancel each other out. Like first of all, I think it is a problem that the game's been extended. It's not a massive problem, but the problem is that you went to the clock system to bring the play down, to bring the speed of play up, right? And to make games faster. And so like having something that counters that is counterproductive to everything you've been trying to do. You know what I mean? So it's like you're shooting yourself in the foot in that instance. But there are some definitive pros for sure. And for example, like those that are football fans know that when a challenge happens, right? And especially in like a big point of the game, you're glued to that screen. You're like, oh shit, like I gotta watch this. It's how I think the NFL has created so many more casual fans than all the other sports, right? And that is a good thing. So when you have casual fans and hardcore fans alike in the stadium watching on TV, and there's a replay that makes them tune in that much more to the game. Like there's so much downtime in baseball. It's easy to like let your ADD just kind of get away from you, right? But when you have to focus on specific moments, that's a good thing. Also, the dugouts are definitely quieter. There's not a lot of fucking around in there. And I can tell you, like, from playing baseball, dude, there's a lot of jerking around in the dugout. You know what I mean? But so many more people are like tuned in now because of this, right? And so the players are more they're more engaged.
I can't hear you.
Matt, I don't think he's on mute.
Justin and I
covered
one of the more controversial moments in the NFL playoffs here on Talking About Radio, where we saw in between the Broncos and Bills a controversial catch, no catch, interception, no interception, followed by multiple calls, which was, if you watch our reaction, that's our reaction to an injustice that we've seen multiple times before. Now, I brought it up for this is going to happen in baseball for the very first time. One of these times it's going to get it wrong, or like we saw, they're going to quickly review it and not fix it in the direction that somebody's not going to like what's going to be called for them, right?
Yeah, Des caught it.
Like Justin, you recall just this playoffs we've witnessed, right? There was a lot of calls that we wanted to go one way or another, or just simply quick reviews. So in that's what I brought up, postseason especially, it's going to be bad then. Do you think the baseball fan reaction is going to be equal to that, where they're not going to like it? Or do you eventually think they'll adapt to what we've already experienced in football?
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those things where I guess it depends on what side of the fence you're on, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're a Dodgers fan, well, and it goes your way, even if it's wrong, you're going to pretend like it's right until the day you die. So it really goes down to that. I mean, a Green Bay fan to this day will probably tell you, I didn't like Des didn't catch it, or even if he did, it was the right call. So I mean, it really depends, especially in the postseason. And the regular season fans of that team, if you're in a regular season game early in the season, it's not going to be that big of a deal. Let's be honest. There's 100 and something games in baseball, so early on, but like that's a good point. In postseason or late season, when every game matters that much more, those calls are going to get more and more intense. And I guess that could be a beneficial area of baseball, is that you have so many games to practice that, where in the NFL, it's like you have a limited amount and every game means so much. So they can experiment a little bit more in baseball because there's so many games. But, as far as like you said, that, I mean, let's be honest, it's hard.
Yeah.
For me, I love baseball, but for me, it's hard to watch a regular season game, a 2.5 hour, 2 hour, 45-minute baseball game in April. It's just tough. It's tough because, like he alluded to, there's a lot of stop times. There's a lot of pauses, and so if you're adding even more to that, and I thought the pitch clock was a great addition. I like a sped up game, especially in April, where these games you have so many ahead of you.
Yeah.
So playoff baseball to me is class. I love it. It's absolutely fantastic. But like I said, at this time of year, it's hard, man. It's hard to watch a full game. And now if they're pausing and they're extending the games even more, you got 100 more games to go. And I'm a big baseball fan, but even as a big baseball fan, it's hard.
Yes. Now, Mario, as a purist, do you think the powers that be in baseball hit it on the money, and the controversial moment is what's going to be able to sell to the casual fan to get them into baseball?
Definitely that's part of it. I just don't think it will. I listen. I think there's always a chance for controversy, right? And baseball's had plenty of controversial moments and officials, umpires. The problem, or not the problem, but the good thing about baseball as it relates to this specific topic is that there are specific parameters that are clear to the naked eye in terms of distinguishing, a safe from an out. On top of that, there is a rule that actually really isn't a rule, but it's ingrained into us as children that tie goes to the runner. And so, even that, if it's close enough, you just say safe, right? So, when you look at those things compared to most people still don't know what the fuck a catch is. And I don't think that the good people over at the National Football League have done a very good job in the public relations space of finding the verbiage that makes it clear. And I think it's very intentional because they don't really know what's clear. I mean, that we've seen enough catches that look like catches and enough catches that didn't look like catches that were catches to know that I don't know if anybody really knows what's going on. And so that's a recipe for trouble. When it comes to baseball, the only real thing I could see being like an issue is maybe like a infield fly rule, right? Because those are sometimes very dicey. Like you can hit a Texas leaguer and that's not an infield fly, right? The ball's live. You could also hit one and it be called an infield fly when it probably shouldn't have been. I've seen it many ways. So that could happen. But again, that is written into the rules of MLB at the umpire's discretion in a way that it's not in the NBA and the NFL.
Now, being that topic, getting to the next sports topic, as the return of Tyson Fury happened this past weekend, and he called out Anthony Joshua, who was sat ringside with one Eddie Hearn. After Tyson Fury's big call out, people have been kind of mixed on AJ's response to said call out. Now, Justin, I don't know if you've seen the highlights to the fight, saw Tyson Fury's performance, and he called out Joshua, which has been another big fight in British boxing that we and the rest of the world have not received. Now, here's his response to the call out. Tyson, you're a clout chaser. You ain't going to tell me what to do. I've been chasing you the last 10 years. When you're ready, you come and see me and tell me your terms and conditions. I'm the boss. You work for me. I'm the landlord. Remember that. You work for me. Now, Justin, as a casual fan, your thoughts on this? Are you on the side that thinks AJ doesn't want the fight, or was AJ standing on his negotiating table, not falling for the bait?
I don't know. I'm not into it enough to know. One thing I do know is that it seems to happen sometimes in boxing more often than I'd like. That I know these names, I know these guys, I've followed their careers, but it seems a little common. It's starting to become a little common that we're getting these fights 5 years, 10 years later than we wanted them. So I don't know who's in charge of doing that, or if I think every fight could be different of who's at fault. But I wish that people would find a way to make these fights happen. Because if the fight happened now, I'm going to be interested. I'm going to watch it. I'd pay to watch it. But I'm the whole time I'm going to be thinking, man, if this was 5 years ago, this was 8 years ago. So I mean, I don't know. I'm sure you guys know more about if there was deals trying to be made, someone didn't want to do it, the negotiations were bad. But I wish that we could find a way to make these fights happen more often. Reminds me of kind of like the Floyd Pacquiao fight, where you really wanted that fight a lot sooner. Then you had it. Yeah, you still got it. You still paid for it. You enjoyed it, but you still left. Even after the result, you're like, but what could have been? And I feel like this fight is going to, if this fight happens, it'd be the same thing for me. I'd be like, man, if we could only got this 8 years ago.
Yes, absolutely, bro. And if you recall, the last time this news around these two guys fighting was around that Wilder and Fury third fight, where they were trying to set this fight up, but then Wilder played his card and dragged the rematch back out for another fight. Haven't had talks about it since then, although these two heavyweights have been, dancing around each other for the same thing like the Mayweather and Pacquiao situation for a good 10 years. Just kind of trying to make a fight, but not really seeming to find the real grounds to make it. Mario, what say you? Is AJ ducking, or is he playing his chips correctly on the table?
So, I was live for the fight. We did a watch along and we spoke about this right after. And this was my immediate reaction. And I remember after the live thinking, man, I really went strong in my immediate reaction. I should have left room to think about it so that I didn't pigeonhole myself into, a stupid argument. I woke up and felt the exact same. And then I saw the internet completely calling AJ a duck and felt even stronger about it. The thing is this, right? First of all, the last time these guys were going to negotiate a fight or were in I don't know if serious is the right word, but let's just say advanced negotiations. Like they were actually at least talking, there was dialogue, was actually in 2024. They wanted to have a fight in December of 2024. The Usyk fight was still on the table. He had been handled well enough that I think he just preferred a payday against I'm not going to say easier, but certainly less skilled fighter in AJ. And that didn't happen. And most of the sources that I had anywhere near that thing were Tyson Fury and their camp was to blame, top rank and, the powers that be get in the way, wanting more. Listen, as far as was it a duck? No, not even a little bit. Let's think about the context for a second. Number one, that was Tyson Fury's fight. Okay. They gave comp tickets to Eddie and AJ. That was it. That was as far as their commitment went for that night. The other thing was Turkey is the one that was like, I have this monumental decision or announcement. I have this huge announcement. It's going to shake the world of professional boxing. Talk about the fucking oversell of a lifetime. Yo, he went to the Tony Khan school of promoting. Just tell him it's a big surprise. And then when you get there, unveil Shazam, Wrath of the Gods. Ultimately, AJ cannot have ducked because Saturday was nothing. Let's say AJ got in the ring and they shook hands and they said, I agree to a deal. We're going to fight. That's not a deal. That's not how deals work. It's the same thing like with Trump when he says he makes a financial deal. Like, no, you're just saying things out loud. These aren't deals. There's no parameters or structures or contract law that says you have to do this or we have to do that or you're responsible for this for X amount of time. So there is no world where AJ ducked. The world that we do live in is that Turkey did a terrible, terrible job of trying to secure this fight by thinking all the leverage was on his side. It wasn't. And it looked like a shit show. And I'm sorry, anyone keeping score is taking Turkey as the L.
I was about to ask you that question too. Don't you think, like, we all knew something, this moment itself was coming. But that was under the assumption that this fight was signed and sealed, delivered.
Exactly.
Like Canelo Triple G style of you're next.
Exactly.
Or like they just did with Crawford, you're next. This is happening.
And by the way, I wouldn't call that like a sports boxing earth-shattering announcement either, that you're finally fucking booking a fight that's like 10 years old. And so I think when you look at what Turkey didn't do, right? Because even if you would have just went to Eddie the day before and said, look, we're going to work this thing out. I promise we're going to work this thing out. Please get in the ring so we can have a build, so we can have a promotion. Dude, Turkey could have paid him to get in the ring. He could have said, listen, I know you don't want to put yourself out there, because that's the other part of this, right? AJ didn't want to get in there because AJ has been to the negotiation table with Tyson Fury and Frank so many times already. And I'm sorry, I'm not saying that AJ is like the guy that fights everybody. I am saying that I don't think he's ever ducked anyone, right? The Wilder fight was 50 mil. Wilder ducked. Fuck that. Wilder ducked. And so at the end of the day, when you look at this fight between AJ and Fury, if I'm AJ, I'm sitting there like, the disrespect to try to make me the co-feature and y'all the main characters. This isn't your story. This is my story. You're the fucking supporting actor. I'm the guy that's going to get an Oscar in the big dick category. So fuck off. I'm not going to go and get in your ring and give you the fucking rub, right? Because here's the other part about it. I could just go fight Wilder. Fuck off, Fury. You have no titles. You represent nothing but a big fat guy. So I'm going to go fight Wilder. Probably a fight that actually does, I think, more money, honestly. Man, probably not. UK loves that fight.
Now, Justin, before we let you go and we switch over to the wrestling topic, that was asked after that. It was a real awkward moment that we can't play yet because of copyrights. Just happened. But Mario, you'll recall this moment. They went to AJ in the crowd, and then they somehow got AJ up on his feet and interviewed him again right after the highlights and asked him about fighting Fury and what he would want to do. And then for the reporter had a follow-up question. She asked, would you like to fight Tyson Fury next no matter what? Or would you also need a tune-up fight? To which then he opened his own eyes. He was like, you know what? That's a great idea. A tune-up fight would be nice. Justin, what, as many avenues as there are in boxing now, and like you said, it is similar to the Pacquiao and Mayweather build-up and Mayweather timeline. Could it still catch a casual fan if you just put the big fights on Netflix? Or can we eventually, or let me reword this. If the big fights stay on Netflix, it's a great thing for boxing. But if the setup fights continue to stay in the way, is boxing ever going to learn to stop rolling the dice and just make the fights happen sooner rather than later? Your thoughts before you sign off, my friend. 1 2 1 2. Are you home? He signed off. Wow, I just gave him that whole moment. That was Justin, ladies and gentlemen.
He probably dropped.
He'll be all right. He dropped off. Big question, Mario. Your answer to that question. Do you think eventually they will learn to cut the setup fights and get straight to the action, especially with as much money that was on the table as Mauro Ranallo continuously repeated how much money everybody was making? Do you think we'll eventually end the dice roll of the setup fight and get to the fight, or do you think it'll eventually just stay the way it is? We'll big money for tune-ups, and then we'll pay out the ass for a pay-per-view.
Yeah, no, tune-ups aren't going anywhere. Here's the thing, right? First of all, they're not the problem. The problem is the way that they're used to promote, right? Like Don King, I remember when he was going to build a fight when I was a kid, he'd put both the guys on the same fucking card, on the undercard of a Tyson fight or something, right? And then we'd eventually see that fight, or he'd have, two guys, heavyweights or whatever, that were going to fight back-to-back cards, right? And so, like, you got to see them right away. And so if you're a casual fan, you caught both those fights, you're like, oh man, I want to see both those dudes that I just saw fresh in my mind fight. That's kind of what we saw with Derek Lewis and Hocknit, right? Am I saying it right? Hocknit?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what we saw this weekend. Donald Trump and Rogan, according to Dana White, apparently booked that fight. And so I don't think it's going anywhere because it serves so many purposes, right? And it might not serve us, the fan, but what it does serve is it serves the fighters to get more money, which means the promoters get more money, which the networks get more content, right? It serves to make more money. If you can squeeze a fucking soccer stadium out of Tyson Fury fighting someone that casuals don't know, and AJ, the same thing. Like, if I'm AJ, I'm thinking, well, I don't know what I look like after the car wreck. I should get in there and test it out, because if I'm going to get embarrassed to anyone and
But it wasn't like
not going to be against Fury.
Spence level car wreck though. It was, he might have fucked his back up, but it's not like, he got tossed out of there.
No. And that's the thing, is like, so like, you're right, but then why not double check? Like, why, if I can get the opportunity to test it out before, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to test drive it. I want to test drive my body in the new post car wreck world.
I guess to me, it just looks bad because you're going to look at AJ's resume between, what would it be, Dubois and Fury, and you would have a Jake Paul and some lower level heavyweight on there.
Yeah,
That
but
would
you
be
could
the
also
choice.
argue AJ rarely took tune-up fights ever. I mean, his
I
prime,
I
he
get
just
it. Yeah,
ran right
I'm not
through
saying
him.
that. I'm not saying he didn't, but I'm just saying like, it's starting to look like AJ is just, he's looking out for AJ now. You know what I mean? Like he's gonna make the money, but like especially over in the UK, Mario, as you know, he's just a walking commodity that can generate money
Money,
at an
bro.
enormous rate over there. But Justin, you're back on. Final thoughts, my friend, before you sign off to the show.
Well, not much, man. Just getting ready for this draft and excited about the summer. Getting ready for the NFL draft. Seeing what my Cowboys are going to do. Making sure y'all come check us out later on tonight. We'll be on Warzone live streaming. White Mamba 0417. Come watch us get slapped or slap. Unk Squad going to be on the game later. So
Sure, for sure. And that will be live tonight on Twitch and live over here on the YouTube channel at the War Zone. Justin, appreciate you tapping in for the sports talk. And like you said, we will be covering the draft, which is next week. Man, that kind of came up quick. We'll see
Right?
what the Cowboys do with their 2 first rounders. Justin, we do appreciate you, my friend. We will
by the
see
way,
you.
on the way out, I know
Go
you
ahead.
guys are about to dive into wrestling. Just wanted to throw it out there. I rewatched WrestleMania 25, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels. Greatest match I've ever seen in my life.
Absolutely agree.
Yep.
And
One of
what
the
a
best.
way to sign off. Mario, as we were just talking about, before we get into the review of the big show, I wanted to touch back on a topic we talked about the other day where we were, discussing like the reaction to the Pat McAfee stuff,
Oh,
interfering
yeah.
with Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes subject. Now, the reaction has been kind of one sided, all on the negative side, but I listened to our good friend JBL earlier today on Bruce Pritchard's podcast, and he had this to say. It just blows me away when a guy gets heat like this. Real heat, he calls it. And people go, oh, it's go away heat. No, it's not. You're just mad. Fans today want to have heels, but don't want it to be like in on it. They have heel they can cheer for, ironically, or they have a t-shirt of. If you're saying somebody is a great heel, they are not a heel. A real heel makes you want them to see them get their teeth kicked in, and Pat has the gift of making people genuinely annoyed. Mario, does JBL have a point? Is he right? Because there is a lot of points where people say in wrestling nowadays, especially, it's the cool heel. Everybody likes the cool heel. The MJFs, the Drew McIntyres. You know, you could slap Jacob Fatu early on in those days.
Yep.
Things
I
like that.
think even still.
Is he right here by calling Pat McAfee's heat real heat and a genuine heel to where they don't like him? Not that they don't want to see him or they want this to go away. They just don't like it genuinely as part of the show.
I don't know if he's right, but I don't think he's wrong, right? And by the way, we were live last week for Raw or for SmackDown. I said that. I was like, everybody's talking shit online about this, but everybody's talking about it, right? And then you go and you look online and you see that the first Pat McAfee, when he got revealed as the guy on the phone, it had a 6-1 dislike ratio. Actually, might be bigger at this point.
Yeah.
The one from this past Friday has a 4-1 dislike ratio. So here's the thing. He's right, because to truly hate something is to not give a shit about it, right? So, for example, Kit Wilson was doing that toxic thing with Obafemi, and literally nobody gave a shit about it. Rusev and Sheamus had this whole big feud that had spanned back years. Nobody gave a shit about it. Nobody seems to give a shit about Rusev. I'm just being honest about that. And so when you look at it and you say, holy shit, there's a difference between things that the fans hate and things that the fans love to hate. And right now, honestly, it feels like Pat McAfee is a thing they love to hate. And so the problem isn't Pat McAfee's skills to get over as a heel. That's never been his issue. The issue is that the creative he's being given is not creative. It's all a commercial, right? So JBL's not wrong, but I don't know if he's right. And we're going to find out. We're going to find out with the ratings. We're going to find out with the attendance. We're going to find out how over that night 1 gets, and especially compared to night 2, right? Which you and I have already said is the banger night. So he's not wrong, but WWE can still fuck it up, right?
Absolutely, bro. And then shout out to Alan Gonzalez with his cute high school picture in the chat. Because honestly, it's the same thing like we saw the other day when we went live after SmackDown, that people just don't like the fact that he was inserted into this. I feel like people, had they saw Pat McAfee at Mania in any other form or fashion, they might have been fine. But the fact that he's inserted into the position that he's in right here is what they don't like. Now, I agree with you by saying JBL, you don't know if JBL, he's not wrong, but you can't declare him correct. Because Pat McAfee is showing that he does have that ability to be a heel, to be on either side of the coin. He understands the business to a point where they can coach him and he can deliver on what is being produced for him. But at the same time, right, it's again like we were saying on Friday. Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton was already a story. That was the student and the master. That was what they've almost got about 20 years of history behind them almost, right? It was, before pre-2010 was legacy. To me, it's another year, especially of TKO getting involved in something that they don't really need to be getting involved in. And it's as similar, like I told you, Mauro, it's still we'll see tonight too. Shout out to everybody that follows over here, and shout out to everybody that goes over to Infighting and our friends over at Fights AEW who cover Monday Night Raw. Is still reminding me of late 90s, early 2000s WCW. And it's going to be hard to see because WWE's business is so large, so massive. WWE is still the majors to everybody. No matter who's out there, you see the reaction TNA is getting. You see AEW holds its own personal crowd that keeps them there. If they continue to do things, especially on the biggest stages where we're already invested, I don't see how the fans stay, Mario. What do you think?
Yeah, dude, I think you're right, because ultimately what you have is a system in which they're trying to put too much pressure on certain points. And when you do that, those things snap, right? Eventually they give way. See, Pat McAfee, JBL again, I'm going to say, isn't totally wrong here, right? The problem isn't the heat. The problem isn't the build, even. The problem isn't even the storyline anymore. The problem, again, is inserting him the way they are to pitch Dodge Ram trucks and to sell tickets. That is not something Pat can do, right? Pat can be a shit heel and go out there and get heat, but nobody's like, oh shit, the puncher from the Colts in the 2010s, bro? Hell yeah, we going to WrestleMania.
Hey, all decade punter, baby.
Hit that Visa apply. We're getting that $24,000 credit and we're going to fucking WrestleMania. Oh, that's only 2 tickets, by the way. And so it's like, no, that's not going to work. You know what I mean? Like, it could work if it was just what it was supposed to be, but it's like, you need it to be more. You need it to be The Rock, right? You need it to be, CM Punk. You need it to be Logan Paul. You need it to be somebody who's actually going to sell tickets, who people are going to say, oh shit, John Cena's going to be there. I'm going to pay for that. Oh, these tickets are expensive. Yeah, but it's John Cena's final night against Gunther. Oh, fuck. Well, I got to go see that. That's not Pat. And he didn't insert anything extra from that perspective into the Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton. So again, like, I'm not saying it's bad. You're right. They didn't need Pat McAfee, but he's not affecting the bottom line. It's TKO are the ones that are setting a super high expectation.
Now, yo, you got me? You still got me? Good?
Yeah, I hear you. Cool. Yeah.
Now, how do we separate the two, Mario? Because I've also seen this thread being thrown out there amongst the wrestling public. And I'm not even speaking on the fans. I'm talking about the insiders that spread out the business as we receive it today. Do you think this is turning into an angle where who the WWE is very known for their, you know, us versus the man kind of storylines, Stone Cold and Vince, us and the corporation, John Cena taking on, the McMahon Helmsley, the older McMahon Helmsley regime once they had Seth Rollins as their golden boy. Is this building up to some kind of storyline where it is going to turn into WWE versus TKO?
I think it's already there, right? It's already there, and Ari Emanuel is an unnamed character right now on the show. Here's the problem, or I don't know if this is the problem, but this is what I think could be the problem, is that they don't know how much to dip their toe in here, right? So like when you think of what you had just said with the Austin and the Vince stuff, right? Vince owned the company, right? Like if he was going to go out there and get stunned and get drenched with beer, bro, you better believe that William Regal was going to kiss his ass, his bare ass out there in the ring. You better believe JR was going to, do anything. Like, bro, when the owner of the company sets that kind of precedent where he's like, yo, I don't care if I'm hated. I don't care if they think I'm sexist, racist, homophobic. I don't give a shit. I'm a character. I want them to hate me. But see, TKO isn't that. Right? Like nobody, Nick Khan and Ari Emanuel aren't willing to come out like fucking Scott Hall and Kevin Nash fucking too sweet in each other. They're not going to do that. That's not going to happen. So right now they're like soft launching a TKO versus WWE type of scenario, right? But I don't think they have a payoff for it. The only thing that I could think would be The Rock. The Rock comes back, represents TKO in their best interests, possibly wins, right? Thanos won the first one, right? You got to let the bad guy kill a few people before he's thought to be a big enough bad guy that you want to pay money to see the good guy beat him. So I do think we're there, but to your point, I think it's just going to get deeper and deeper.
Now, before we switch over to Dynasty finally, as the people have been waiting, I want to play this game because I'm going to play this game with my other
Alan said WWE versus TKO war games. Yo, that would be fire, bro. The Rock picks his own fucking team, bro.
But it would be The Rock and like a bunch of celebrities, bro. That's the problem. It would be like The Rock, Jason Statham, Jelly Roll, and fucking Lil Yachty.
You know what they should do? This is what he should do, right? He should pick like Roman, right, and like a few other people, and then the last one, he's like, I'm gonna bring someone in. I want somebody who's not signed to the company that could go out there and kill if he has to and not get in trouble. It's like who? And he brings in Zillafat too. Gives him the rub. Boom. There it is.
You just want to piss off a certain Mexican that lives in this area whose favorite oos has been rumored to show up into the WWE. But
I don't know what you're talking. All I know is AEW was better than WrestleMania. No, I'm just kidding.
This is going to be a quick not trivia, but survey question prediction style for WrestleMania this week, as I will play this game next week for the draft with my co-host Justin Owen. But now with you, Mario, as it is WrestleMania week, we're getting hyped. It's probably the least hyped WrestleMania we've seen in the past few years, and we are fresh out of Vince era, who had a terrible run of manias up until about WrestleMania 38 from 30. Now, the first one, Mario. Speaking of Mr. McMahon, will we see Vince anywhere from the Hall of Fame to the end of WrestleMania Night 2? Will there be a Vince sighting?
No Vince sighting.
No Vince sighting.
Not yet. No.
I got old school pen and pad to get this down. We'll make your graphic for next Monday.
You know it.
Will we get the Pat McAfee versus Jelly Roll segment in the middle of the main event between Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton?
Yes, but not in the way that people want. I hear they're doing the tag match at what's the next one?
Backlash,
yeah. So that's where they're going, I think.
Now, follow-up question to that one. Will that be the highlight that is played on Good Morning America next Monday morning?
Oh, shit. Good question.
Good one, right? It'll say Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton, and the highlight will be the fight between Jelly Roll and Pat McAfee. Yes or no?
If I had to bet money, I would not pick this way, but I'm gonna pick this way simply because I'm trying to put it out in the universe. No, because they're gonna show Obafemi squashing Brock Lesnar instead.
Imagine that. Now that is the one I wouldn't put my money on. Although it is in the first hour of the show, it's gonna be quick.
Stupid.
Now you brought up he needs to be here. Will we get a sighting of the final boss, The Rock?
Yes. Yes. I think they have teased far too much a higher up. And at this point, the only other person that would make sense would be Ari Emanuel, and he's definitely not going to be an on-screen character. So The Rock's going to have to come and do the job. And I think for one other reason, I'll say this. The Rock last year didn't make it to Mania. It was the biggest backlash, so bad he had to go on Pat McAfee's show and basically throw everyone else under the bus. And what happened was the Smashing Machine movie came out that he thought, and a lot of people thought was going to be a huge hit, and it flopped. And for critics, it flopped at the theaters. And I think that The Rock may believe there be a stronger correlation. And so with Moana coming out, the live action version this summer, competing with a very heavy weekend opening, there's like 2 or 3 big movies coming out that weekend. I think he's going to show up specifically because he's not supposed to show up.
Mm-hmm. Now, here's another good one that I didn't get to ask you because I completely forgot, but I put it a part of my survey questions. Do we get a double turn in the match involving Trick Williams and Sami Zayn? Trick switches to face, Sami switches to heel.
All right, I'm gonna make this super fast because it's too much to say. So I wrote about this last week in my Raw recap, which you can go and check out on fightsatcw.com every Monday, every Friday. I'll also be covering WrestleMania. I wrote about this. I think this could be one of the worst heel turns of all time with Sami Zayn. Wow. Because for a year, this thing was teased off and on. You know, even when John Cena was being a heel, there was this moment for Sami to kind of like give in to the dark side. Didn't happen. Then he went off TV. The whole thing with Cody Rhodes throughout the winter, was setting him down this really dark road. And so the rumors were that they were going to do the switch a la Bret Hart, Stone Cold, Steve Austin. When they went in and did that, Stone Cold went as a heel, Bret went in as a face. By the end of the match, they had reversed. And that's what they were hoping to accomplish with Trick Williams and Sami Zayn. Unfortunately, because only of Triple H's booking, it's already happened. They wasted the moment. Sami Zayn is already getting booed uncontrollably, and Trick Williams has been getting over as a face almost since his debut, certainly since they were in Memphis and everybody was chanting for him, even though he wasn't in the fucking building, which was crazy. And nobody there realizes that Whoop That Trick is from a fucking movie that was originated in Memphis.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, yes, they're going to do it. But also they've already done it.
All right, last 2 coming up on this WrestleMania segment. And you know what? We're going to check out that article later in the week when we go live again, folks, and we'll review Mario's thoughts and compare them to what he said just now. But next question, Mario. The Bella Twins will be scratched from Mania before the end of the week. As you know, Nikki Bella is suffering from an ankle injury, and they're saying they're cutting it close to the edge of if she's going to make it or not. They are involved in a multi-woman tag match with the World Tag Team titles for the women's division on the line. Do the Bellas get scratched by the end of the week?
Very good question.
Actually, they only have till Friday because they are on the Saturday portion, night 1.
Oh, yeah, good call. Good call. I didn't even think of that. I am going to say they're not going to get scratched. Even though all signs point to they are, I'm going to say they're not. And the reason I'm going to say they're not is because, listen, there's a lot of reasons to say they are, right? Io Sky's on deck. The match with Asuka is not happening now. And so, like, a lot of things are there. But let's be honest. The Bellas aren't the most, like, hard workers. I'm not saying they're not hard workers. They're not the most, like, they don't do a lot.
This
right?
age of fan loves them for some reason.
Exactly. But they love to see him, right? And so it's like you can send Nikki Bella out there slightly injured and protect her in all the matches that you could send her out there in. That's a match you could send her out there slightly hurt, keep her away from action, maybe like hit her with the chair at the very beginning, have her out or whatever. I never thought the Bellas were going to win the tag titles anyway. So why not, and by the way, I think that they really wanted this. They really, really wanted this. And I think that they know that if they don't do it now, there's probably never going to be another Mania opportunity like this for them to challenge for the tag team titles.
Absolutely. And final question on the survey, my man, for WrestleMania, both nights. Now, this is for both nights. Who will walk away with the win total, the heels or the baby faces?
Ooh, good question. Damn. I wish I knew you were going to ask that question so I could have came with a prepared answer. Man, I'm going to go with the faces. I think the faces win out Mania. I do.
All right, that will be the WrestleMania portion. Now to review the show that took place last night over in Vancouver, British Columbia, as AEW Dynasty was aired. And to me, this was another decent showing from AEW. But I want to say about halfway through the show, I was like, man, this seems like a real long episode of Dynamite for some reason.
Oof.
Now, like I said, I enjoyed the matches. Edge and Christian and FTR, I enjoyed it to a point until they got real silly with it. And then Edge getting busted up hard way by the belt is insane.
That was crazy.
I did not enjoy the women's title match. I did enjoy.
Wow, really?
Man, what is my man's name? The Jet won the TNT title out of the gauntlet.
Kevin Knight.
Yes, Kevin Knight. Super surprised by Kevin Knight winning.
I know, dude.
Match.
Right?
That one got me. But they set it up perfectly. I've always been an up and down fan about it because it does kind of remind you of what it was, the King of the Mountain match in TNA.
Oh, yeah.
With that style of, you kind of want to win early on throughout the match, take them down. But then the main event also the Young Bucks had a tag team match that, that really didn't need to involve them, but it forward progressed the storyline between Okada and Takeshita. You then had one of the better moments between Andrade and Darby Allin, who had a great physical match, but to me, the Andrade playboy character they try to play up with the crowd is getting kind of old, especially when the shtick was kind of foiled by the women that was kind of just shitting on the show and the wrestling product as a whole. But to me, the main event was one of the better things I've seen. The match between Kenny Omega and MJF was a little on the long side, but the story they were telling and the things they were able to accomplish in that match was excellent. I would recommend people going to go watch, and I hardly recommend a Kenny Omega match to anybody, but one of the best wrestlers at the age of 30 years old is in that match performing, telling the story of he didn't beat Kenny at 100% the last time. He gets Kenny at 100% this time. Kenny looking strong and dominant in this match, put on a great performance himself, and eventually did sell the after effects of what we knew was diverticulitis, kind of setting him back, letting us know he was performing injured and hurt. Mario, what do you take away from last night's show? And do you agree with me that this was just instead of Dynasty, it was more of a Dynamite?
Okay, I definitely felt like it wasn't a AEW pay-per-view. Only in the sense that there were a million matches, but you're right. There weren't a lot of big angles that took place, right? There weren't a lot of setups and or payoffs. It was kind of a lot of just like pure wrestling, right? And kind of just like going through the motions of some of this stuff. Like Edge, Christian, FTR, is that over? I doubt it, but then why not? Like it's just like a lot of different things. Also, the Okada Young Bucks stuff. If the Bucks would have lost, then Okada would have gotten the title match, right?
Mhm.
And in the end, Takeshita lets the Bucks get them. Here's the thing: I love the finish. It just didn't make sense to me. Like
Yeah.
I you know what I mean? Like, wait, so you do want him to have the title? It was like I just couldn't understand it. But while there were aspects of the entire card that felt a little lacking of a major pay-per-view, that main event had such a big fight feel. I mean, it felt like a big deal from the
Yeah.
entrances, which both of them had iconic entrances. MJF's entire set design and his entrance gear, just fucking awesome. I don't know who did it. I don't know who designed it, but props to them. Listen, they told a story, like you said. And to me, it was probably the best match of the year so far. Just absolute perfection in the sense of you had the wrestling god versus the devil of wrestling, right? And they
Mhm.
played this kind of like epic battle, and it played out, right in front of our eyes. And the story, as you said, like Omega, maybe not a problem that he was injured, but maybe a problem that he's lost too many steps, right? And so from that to the
Well
Will
said.
Ospreay, John Moxley stuff, oh man, I mean, what a great, they start off with the
You know.
fucking elbow, right? And he doesn't pin him because he's like, fuck that, I'm gonna make him pay. And Moxley warned him on Dynamite. He said, don't let this get personal. If you let it get personal, it will cost you. And it cost him. He lost the match. By the way, shout out to Jericho and Ricochet. That was a
Yeah,
really good match. I
they had
was
a fun
shocked that
little match.
Jericho didn't win, but what did you think of that one?
Now, I was going to go to that, and this is in my
Oh,
notes
my bad. Go ahead.
before Ed Gonzalez comes on your show and talks about me praising AEW finally. I do have my gripes over here in my notes. Now, it did build up a story. Same thing for Jericho too. To me, Jericho wasn't the story. This one goes more to Will Ospreay. I understand the story that they told. Will Ospreay losing control, making it personal, not keeping it a sport like Moxley was trying to claim. But if this was the direction you wanted to go, why go this way immediately in Will Ospreay's return? I understand he's had a couple matches, but I feel like the Moxley match could have waited to the next pay per view if this is the direction you were going to go. As you build up a little more, maybe 2 months of Will becoming unhinged, losing a little bit of control, I would have liked it better that way because you would have seen it coming more than a couple weeks span. Because he was having like competitive matches on collisions with people who
Yeah,
should have been having squash matches with. Will Ospreay,
very
that is.
true.
The next thing was Jericho. Same thing. I understand. He is a babyface. He's come out as a babyface, which is good. The people liked him. They're in Canada. Same thing though. Why have him lose in an excellent match that he had? For his abilities, Ricochet took really good care of him and made him look like $1,000,000. Because if you rewatch that match, Mario, it's probably one of the more simpler matches that they had. It's probably one of the you could think of a classic. I want to say CMLL American luchador match. You know what I mean? Where you would have like a top American name. You would have like a Funk or a Rhodes or a Jake Roberts go down there where they'd allow a couple of the big high spot moves, but then they would just get to it with each other, real slow paced and themed that way. Then I had my casual, the other notes I didn't like was like I said, the spot with the Bucks. To me, it didn't really that match didn't need them. I also wrote down the women's match, the women's world title match because it was for what they had first. Jamie Hayter and Tekla had a really sloppy match go out there, put it on the scene, and then obviously the trios match. I'm just not really into the trio scene anymore, man. That to me, that division as a whole kind of just it loses me. It loses me. Not to
It's
say there's
falling
too
off
many
for sure.
belts, but it's just like there's nobody. It's a bunch of random teams they slap together apart from the teams from Japan that are already set.
Yeah.
But Mario, any
Yeah,
final thoughts on Dynasty that we saw last night before we get off the air here before Monday Night Raw starts?
yeah. Listen, I just want to real quick challenge you on the Will stuff. Listen,
Okay.
I agreed with you literally on every single thing you said up until last night. And here's the thing. I thought it was so stupid bringing Will back, even though, yes, Moxley and them were the ones that took him out. I thought it was stupid because Moxley isn't the same character. He's completely changed. Like, he doesn't represent the same thing that he once represented. When Will Ospreay was taken out, that was like an AEW versus them sort of situation, right? All the faces rallied together. And now it was like Will's coming back and he's like the only one that's still beefing. Like, it just felt stupid. But now that we see Moxley ends up winning and Will is having to learn to not take things as personal, and maybe that's leading towards a heel turn. You know, he did shove the ref. He showed some like hints of heelish tactics. I do think it makes more sense. Did it make sense for it to be the thing Will did? I don't know. I think he would have been better off doing something different. But does the story work full circle? I think the answer is yes. As far as the cons for me, though, man, it was just too long. Too long. And I don't just mean, oh, there's too many matches. I mean, there's too many types of the same matches, right? Like, you saw the mid-card title on full display, and AEW showed how deep their mid-card scene is. You know, Kevin Knight wins the title, but man, you got Pac, Jet Speed, Bandito, and that's aside from Darby Allin and Andrade putting on a banger, and Andrade putting on banger after banger since this guy's gotten back to AEW.
Yes.
All I know is that you can't push everyone. AEW needs to reset the way they look at their roster, and they need to start making very hard decisions in terms of who are our mid-carders right now, who are our top dogs, who are our fucking, squash guys, who are the people that we're trying to build up, who are the people that we're looking to build down so we can come back and build them up. It doesn't have to be this big storyline that's connected and interwoven. What it does have to do is get back to the traditions of wrestling, right? Where there's the Intercontinental Champion or the United States Champion, there's the World Champion, there's the Tag Team Champions. Let's not overcomplicate it. And I feel like that speaks to your point about the trios. It just overcomplicates it, all right? And it wasn't even that I didn't like the match, but it's like, damn, now we got an injured guy who looked like $1 million for AEW, and Gabe Kidd, and could have been a singles run. It's a problem. It's a problem, right? And Kyle Fletcher injured too. The less you work these guys,
and he
the
just
less injuries you have to
That's
deal with. And he
just came back,
dude.
Oh,
Dude.
but yeah, man. Look, and then the only point I'll raise with you is like, obviously, like, we pay attention to AEW, and you kind of have to, because, like you said, because Will Ospreay was, reacting to something that happened 6 months ago. But 6 months ago, it seemed like, okay, we came to Texas, so Will Ospreay can have this match, and not for the world title, so that way we can build him up to when we return to Wembley Stadium this year, so he can win the world title. But if I'm gonna make him an unhinged, shit-talking heel again, like he was with Aussie Open, how much sense does that make? And who's the baby? And the world champion isn't a baby face, so how are we gonna get there? All In is in 4 months. How are we gonna get there?
W Matt, for sure. W Matt, you're right. There was I'm thinking of like the story they just told with Moxley. I wasn't thinking of the larger landscape of Will Ospreay and where he was projected. And that's the thing. It's like, dude, if you have any hope of getting AJ Styles over there, that's the match. And if you don't, either way, you're still building Will to London, and so very good point. I think W Matt,
and I think, like, I'm not gonna rag on him, and I'm gonna start because, like I said, we're running low on time here. I don't want to move it, but that was always been my recent gripe with Tony Khan's booking. To me, with AEW, he always seemed like he had a good 2-3 year plan, but nowadays it seems like he books 30 days at a time. He knows how to get to the next pay-per-view, but he doesn't have the big end-all be-all goal he doesn't have that goal without repeating it with the same people, because people that argue with me say, look at Hangman, and I'm like, what about Hangman? We already saw this, the same story we just saw with Hangman. Saw it 5 years ago when AEW started. The same thing, the same How many times is Hangman Adam Page going to redeem himself? 8. How many times is MJF going to prove he's the devil? How many times is Kenny Omega and the Bucks going to prove they're the best group in the entire business? It's a lot of the same things, and they just rotate what role you play. But that's a story for another day. That has been the show, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you all for tuning in here live. Shout out to my co-host Justin, who he and I will be live tonight on Twitch. We like to play the game, chop it up, talk live, talk random stuff. We will also be tuned into Monday Night Raw live with our friends over here at Infighting FX. Please tune into his channel over on youtube.com/Infighting FX. Also tune into his articles, which we will review live from Fights ATW. Mario,
Champ.
shout out your channel. Shout out what's coming up next for you guys over at Infighting.
Hell yeah, at Infighting FX on all platforms, Twitch, IG, YouTube, TikTok, and X. And yeah, we're gonna be live for Raw, and then we're gonna be live this weekend for WrestleMania. Super excited. We have some fun things planned. Got the kids coming over, so gonna probably like do some segments with them and stuff like that. So yeah, big WrestleMania weekend. I know you're gonna come through and chop up WrestleMania with us and some other topics that are WrestleMania-esque, on our final road to WrestleMania. So here we go, fight week. We're here, champ.
Absolutely. We'll see. Can they save it? Mario, if you'd like, you can join me again. I will be live once again before WrestleMania this Thursday or Friday.
Oh yeah.
As we have now, Mario, and you're going to love this, we have now organized the stacks of magazines, and we will redo a segment I did on Infighting FX where we will look at one of the PWI's old top 500.
Love it.
This
Love
one
it.
from the early 1990s. And we'll review Mario's article on Trick Williams and Sami Zayn. But for Mario and Justin, I am Matt Garces. This has been Talking Bout Radio over here, youtube.com/Talking Bout Sports, Talking Bout Radio here on Twitch. Also, have a nice night, ladies and gentlemen. See you then. Peace.